Welcome to our webinar, Moving Away from Boring Facilitation. And because we like to do what we preach, I would like to ask all of you, even before I introduce myself, to do something so that we know you're here with us. So either if you just write something in the chat, a hi, your name, where you're coming from, whatever you want to, or if you react with an emoji, it can be a happy emoji or it can be a sad emoji as well. It's fine. We embrace all emotion, or just wave at the camera if you have your camera open, just so you know that you are here with us. I can already see some messages coming into the chat. Thank you. Oh, lots of people from London, Lisbon, US, awesome. We have US, Berlin. Happy to be here. We're happy that you're here as well. Awesome. I am Lavinia. I am a co-founder and the learning architect at Offbeat, which is a learning space dedicated to L&D professionals. So we help L&Ds in growing their skills, acquiring new behaviors, sharing experiences, so we become more impactful. And for the first thing, I think it's important to know, why are you all here? So it's 30 minutes of your time. Why did you decide to join this webinar? Just share your thoughts in the chat because it's important to know. Let's see. Why did you decide to spend these 30 minutes with us? Talking about facilitation. So many people still coming in. Hello, everyone. Curiosity. Hopefully to learn something. We hope that as well. New in an L&D role, looking to expand my knowledge, Lizzie. We will do that. Love facilitating. I really enjoy facilitating. Okay, lots of facilitation. That's good, because just to know that you're in the right place, we thought of this session as being for learning professionals. So it doesn't matter if you work as an in-house learning professional, meaning that you are an L&D consultant, an L&D business partner, a learning experience designer, or a facilitator, or if you work as a freelancer or as an outside learning consultant. That's fine as well. I think it's important also to be interested in facilitation and in growing our facilitation skills, either because maybe we just started into L&D and facilitation in general, or if we have been doing facilitation for a while, and chances are that there are still some areas of facilitation that we are struggling with. Something else is that we have questions about non-boring facilitation. So how do we make these sessions that we facilitate more engaging, more fun, and more impactful for our learners? And finally, you might be interested in joining our program, Non-Boring Facilitation. So throughout these 25 minutes left, we are going to talk a lot about non-boring facilitation with yours only. And we have a special guest, Lena. I would like you just to wave for now, and we will introduce her later on. Okay, still many questions, many messages coming in. I see a lot of curiosity. I love curiosity. I'm also very curious. Okay. So one of the things that you need to know is that we are not going to sit around and look at the screen. We are going to do a very, very short exercise. Now, I need you to sit very comfortably and think that you need to design a non-boring session with the emphasis on non-boring. Just think that you just received a request or you discovered a problem and you want to design this session. Take a bit of time to reach that space. The first question is, what are your first moves? What do you first do when you think that you have to design a non-boring session. Let's see what, get to know the group. Thank you, Gabi. Woo. Come up with topic and outline. Learn more about our learners. How can I make it interactive? A lot of interactivity I can see here, interactive actions. Sarah says that she needs to research the topic and the tools to use. Think of ways to engage participants. Again, interactivity. Know the audience and objectives. Clarify your learning outcomes. So I'm seeing something about getting to know the audience, then something about engagement and interactivity, and something about impact as well. That's great. Think about the pace of the session. That's also a very interesting thought. Now, let's think that you are there. You are in the room or in the Zoom meeting. Participants are coming in and you can see them. You can see yourself if you're in a Zoom meeting, and things are happening. And the question is, what would the session look like if it were non-boring? What would happen? How would you feel like? How would they feel like? Let's see. Humor. Okay. Lots of engagement from the group. Like, what's happening right now? It's so nice to see so many messages pouring in. Let's see what else. Energized and motivated. People are engaging with comments, communication, lots of smiles. I can't see many of you, but I do hope there are lots of smiles as well. People would be participating and asking questions. A lot of sharing. Energy as I have right now. Yes, let them talk the most. Awesome. Interaction, activities. People feeling heard and like the contributions shape the session in some way. That's great. Stick the learning better. Opinions are being heard. I see some inclusivity here as well, which is awesome. So this is how we should feel and they should feel, and this is how a non-boring session would look like. Well, we have been talking with lots of people when it comes to facilitation, be them L&Ds, facilitators at the beginning of their career or even later on in their career. And we realized that we have these two profiles mostly. We call them Dora and Laura. And I want to tell you a bit about how Dora looks at things and then how Laura looks at things. I will very quickly walk you through this. So let's take Dora, for example. Dora knows that has lots of information and knows that she should put all this information into a PowerPoint. And because she has lots of information, she knows that she will have around 50 minutes of presentation and around 10 minutes at the end to interact with participants. She will use in this presentation lots of facts to persuade people into using certain frameworks and to grab their attention. She will also focus a lot of her attention to making sure she draws the perfect PowerPoint. So she spends a lot of time with her eyes in her laptop and designing the presentation, making sure everything looks perfect. And she's usually anxious about two things. The first one, she's anxious that she will get questions she doesn't know how to answer. And then she's also anxious because she knows she will have difficult participants to handle and she's not sure how she will do that. Then we have Laura. Laura thinks that content is not the most important thing. So she will think of a PowerPoint, but most of the content will be like in a couple of slides. Then she will use most of the time of the session to nudge learners to reflect, interact, and share their own knowledge. She will use a lot of storytelling to grab people's attention. And when she prepares for things, she will make sure she properly divides her attention into preparing the content, the experience, and also her own presence. And we will talk a bit about that later on. Then she prepares herself to use coaching as a way to support learning transfer, and again, to provide opportunities for interaction and knowledge sharing. And finally, to make sure that she's ready to engage with those difficult participants who chances are will appear, she reviews the 7 cases of difficult participants. Now, these are the 2 profiles, and the question is, how can we move toward being more like Laura? And for that to happen, I want to introduce you to an awesome facilitator. She has years of experience. She works with lots of companies. She's a facilitator, she's a consultant. She designs learning experiences from scratch. Lena, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Lavinia, and thank you for the kind words. It's lovely to see all these people who've joined. I see familiar faces and new faces. And I love the input in the comments. It's really, really brilliant. And we're going to dive into the things that you're sharing, because I've been keeping track on it and look at the challenges of Dora and Laura and see how we can overcome them. But before that, my name is Lena Nasiakou, and I am the other host of this webinar and the facilitator of the Nonboring facilitation course offered by Offbeat, which we're going to discuss about at the end of the session in case you are interested to join. I'm in the field for more than 10 years, and before that I have a master's degree in adult education and lifelong learning, and I've worked with more than 1,500 trainers or facilitators or teachers, people who are into facilitating smaller or larger groups for organizations like H&M, Netflix, Johnson & Johnson, Trivium Packaging, and Teva Pharmaceuticals, so for a very diverse range of industries. Now, I'm going to share my screen and start looking together into challenges and seeing how we can overcome these challenges, right? Because that's the point. And in this webinar, we are giving you a taster, a snip review, or a bite of how it looks like if you join the program with us. So let's first look at the challenges and see which are those are relatable to you. So is it challenges to capture the attention of participants, to come up with interactive and fun activities, to manage your own anxiety because you don't have all the answers, and I saw it in the chat and it's very normal. You're curious to learn how to motivate your participants, or you don't really know how to stop participants who like to talk too much. I already see you're putting your answers in the chat, and big percentage of you are already adding. I see the numbers are changing, but I have to say more or less is equal. No. Coming up with interactive and fun activities to make it stick comes first now. Okay. Let's see. Let's give it half more minute for the ones who want to answer, put their questions in, their answers in the poll. Nice. I think we have 3 winners, 4 winners. We have 1 winner. Yes. Perfect. Do you want to end the poll, Lavinia, and share the results? Yes, and we can share the results. So as you see, the number 1 is making it stick, but second comes the capturing the attention of participants. So how can I grab the attention of people? And then how to motivate people. And last 2, how to stop participants, the ones who are like the blah blah people, and how to manage my own anxiety because I don't have all the answers. Brilliant, brilliant. So let's take things one by one. Let's do that. So the first challenge that there was in the poll is to capture the attention of participants. So this is about grabbing the participants' attention from the start, giving them the idea that what we offer is something unique, something that, oh, I didn't expect and I haven't seen before. Now, the mistake that Dora does in such cases is that she thinks that she needs to add as much information as possible and creates her presentation in a logical order. So from A to Z, what is the very, very logical way of presenting this information for people to learn? This doesn't work, that's a mistake. What you can do instead is to follow a psychological order, as it's called a psychological beginning. So how can you make it in a way that, Laura does it in this way, that you grab the attention from the beginning because you start with the pain points, you start with the challenges of people, you start with what is relevant to them right now instead of following the logical order. So this is part of the non-boring facilitation framework. And the first part is the psychological order. So not logical, not from A to Z, but psychological. Where is the pain? What is the challenge that my people are facing right now? And that's the reason that they enter this space with me. The second mistake that Dora makes is that she's very busy presenting all the facts and the numbers and the scientific research, which is great, but it gets really dry, it gets really boring. So the solution is also part of the non-boring facilitation framework and is all about using storytelling, using interesting visuals, using GIFs and little memes and little videos to really capture people's interest and attention instead of just giving them facts, because they're going to forget the facts very quickly and they're also not going to be interested more after the first or second percentage that you gave them. Then they are completely losing their attention because you come off as very wise and everything, but that's not what facilitation is for. They can read a book for that. So 2 parts of the non-boring facilitation framework, and there are much more. We can explore them in the course, but the first is the psychological order. It's quite difficult to do, but it's very, very, very effective if you manage. And then use more in visuals, storytelling, use your own stories in order to capture the attention. Let's see the next challenge. The next challenge, what was it? Coming up with interactive and fun activities to make it stick. Now, let me tell you, and you raise up your hand or your virtual hand if you've been there. So you want to make your workshop or your training interactive and fun and engaging, and then you go to Google. Who has done that? Raise your hand or your virtual hand. I see, we are all guilty here, right? Yes. Exactly, we all do that. Now, what's the problem with Google? The first problem is that, except if you spend like 24 hours searching, you will come up, you will search and you will find activities that everybody has done before. And I mean, come on, how many times do people need to go through the marshmallow challenge until they get it, right? It gets boring. So the first trap is that we will find activities that everybody has done before, and that's really boring and that's not fun, and people are like, again, okay. And that's Dora's mistake. The second mistake that Dora does is that she goes through Google, but she doesn't find anything that matches with what she wants to work on, with the challenges that the people are facing, with the content that she is giving. And she gets disappointed. And at the end, she says, okay, I'm just going to give a couple of icebreakers. Icebreakers are not bad, like by definition, but when they are completely disconnected for the content of the session, the work that you're going to do, the learning that the people need to, and want to make out of this session, then they become completely irrelevant. And then this is when you see these long faces and people are like, no, I don't want to stand up now. No, I don't want to participate. So these are the 2 mistakes. And the solution is to really facilitate active, engaging sessions. And what I suggest and what I recommend is to find your own source of inspiration instead of going to Google. For me, it's dancing, it's theater, it's being in the nature, playing games, board games, other types of games, and get inspiration from these practices, sports as well. Get inspiration from these practices, because if you try to do all the creative thinking in front of a pen and a paper, it won't work. But if you are active, if you are in motion, if you play, if you see this, then you can start making connections with what you are teaching, what you are aiming for people to learn, and what you are giving them. So very, very important to do that. And then dare on putting it into your practice. Dare on actually facilitating it with your audience. And I know it's scary, but it's just the first time. Then you have it ready for the next time, right? And this is something we're going to do also in the non-boring facilitation course, is that we are going to offer lots of activities. I have quite a huge toolkit of activities for leadership development, team development, difficult conversations, teaching, coaching, you name it, I have it. And then see how we can create, you can copy this, but also get inspiration for your own if you would like to try that out. And then the next challenge, we saw it in the chat also, how it's the anxiety part. We're facilitators and we think that we have to have all the answers. I have to know everything. Well, we don't live in ancient times where they were, I don't know, these 20 Greek philosophers that they knew everything, all the knowledge of the world. Now we live in the very informative eras and times, so it's impossible to have all the answers. So the mistake that Dora does is that a difficult question comes, or a question she considers as difficult, and then she stops breathing. She goes like this, she holds her breath, and then she tries to find a solution. She tries to respond. She tries to bombard people with more input. Now that's completely not helpful for her and her own emotions, her own presence as well, because it really shows on the other side that people understand it. People smell us, they smell everything. So the solution that we suggest is really to have to learn how to have an embodied presence in a way that you show connection and authority with your audiences, or audiences, no, with your participants, the people that you are working with. And we have a 3-step framework, which is super easy, and I'm going to share it right now, that you can use at any time you feel that you are in this anxiety mood or stress mood or fight, flight, freeze. And there are 3 steps, as I said. So the number 1 step is to stop. The moment that you feel that you are triggered from something that is happening in the room, just stop. Breathe, and you can do it also now with me. Breathe and expand your belly. And breathe out. Just to give the signal to your body and to your brain that everything is okay. And then change position. Could be that you move your chair. If you're standing, go closer, go further, but change position physically, which will help you to change position mentally. And mentally, I mean that you change from the ego position of the critical or nurturing parent that you might fall in, into the ego position of the adult. If you want to know more about it and practice, either you join the course, of course, or we can put a link in the chat later on about transactional analysis and ego positions. And let's go to the next challenge. Motivating my participants. Oh, that is a good one. That is a good one. We saw that was quite high in the poll before. So what happens, what is the mistake that Dora does, is that she tries to give more and more input, and she tries to be more and more active, and she ends up looking like a clown in the group, right? Which is never helpful. So how can you work around so you keep people accountable for their own learning? So we said it in the beginning with the non-boring framework that we need to understand first what are the challenges of the people and what are the results that they need to create after this learning activity. And then the question is, how can I coach them? So that's the real question. It's not about how to motivate them. Cannot really motivate anyone, but it's all about how can I coach them in order to figure out their motivation, their obstacles, their their values, everything that is around them, and stop bombarding them with answers when they are like, yeah, but I don't know how to apply it, or yes, but in this case, and what would you do in that case, and in my team, this and that. Then how can you shift things around so you make it very personal about them, so you stop working super hard, but you become more of a coach-like facilitator. So instead of bombarding them with solutions that you think they might work, and you work even harder, you learn how to coach them and how to ask them questions so they come up with their own solutions and their own answers. And last challenge, but not least, and we will take for sure a couple of extra minutes for the Q&A for the ones who want to stay, is how to stop participants who like to talk too much. Now, there are certain cultures that talk a lot and certain that they don't, but also certain groups, like especially the ones who work with leaders, right? Then we see that they are more extroverted, they are more outspoken compared to other groups. Like if you work with IT, maybe you have the opposite problem, but that's also something we work with. So what happens when participants like to talk too much? The mistake that Dora does is that she is very polite. And she is so polite that she doesn't, she lets the person go on. And that's horrible for the group because the group gets bored. It's bad for her timing because her timing just goes away and she doesn't keep track of it anymore. And it's bad for her emotions because she knows that she should do things differently, but she doesn't. So what works very well is to really know how to address difficult participants. And could be that a difficult participant for you is this one, the one who talks too much. For somebody else could be somebody who always has questions to ask and doesn't understand. For somebody else could be the person who is super silent, or the group who is super silent. For somebody else could be a person who is completely disengaged. So we have identified 7 different types of difficult participants. And the question is for you to think, which is the participant who gets under your skin? And be sure that you have your own way of addressing it. Now, to give an example of the specific one, how to stop the one who likes to talk so much, is that when you realize that this is a pattern, make sure that when the person speaks, then you look them in the eye or through the camera, you nod and you give a sign that I hear you, I see you. When they finish, you make a summary of what they said, you thank them, and then physically also you change your body in order to look somewhere else, and you make a statement with your next question. So you make a statement with the next question. I have a couple of questions for you. They're genius and they work always very well. So what you can say is that, is there somebody else who has a question? So you really open it to the rest of the people. Or you can also help them to become more mindful of the time and say, since we are almost out of time for this section in the next 15 seconds, what is the main message that you would like to give us? So you still encourage them, you're still open to them and to what they are saying, but you're also bringing your authority there to bring the limits. So these were all the challenges, and in order to be able to address these challenges more in depth, we've designed the Nonboring facilitation course, which has 5 weeks, every week 2 hours, where we go through the Nonboring facilitation framework we mentioned before with all the elements. Now we introduced a couple. We are going to go the second week on facilitating engaging sessions, and these are real cases, real experiences that I've designed over the years, and people really love them, so you can steal them and use them. We will do a workshop on embodied presence, so how you can project authority and connection for your people and use your voice and not abuse your voice. Coaching for facilitation, how you can do the debriefings, how you can address difficult questions, how you can keep people accountable. And the last and very favorite piece is how to address difficult participants. And we have specific 7 cases and a couple of techniques per case, so you feel more confident and competent in working with your people. And with that being said, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to pass on the mic to Lavinia.
Yes, and we are very aware that we went a bit over time, 1 minute now, but no worries. If you have any questions, we still have 10 minutes, and feel free to share whatever questions or thoughts you have.
Hi, I'll start. Thank you, Lavinia and Lena. It was really a great presentation and at least allow me to think of some points, and that was really good. I do have two questions, but for now I'll just start with this one because I'm aware of people's time. Um, I'm actually very curious in regards to the last point about how to deal with difficult or challenging people. What if those difficult and challenging people is someone that are authority to you? So like, let's say your boss. How do you deal with that? Because Lena was saying you have to have some sort of a more assertive or authoritative figure. How do you do that if it's your boss? Or someone in a higher position? Yeah.
That's all okay, and that's a lovely question what you're asking, and it's very normal to think in this way. But the moment that you step in the room, you're the biggest authoritative figure there because you're the person who holds the space for everyone. So still they are a participant, and still it takes a bit of courage to show this authority with connection. It's a very thin balance, but you need to make sure that these both are there. So you show that everything is to their interest as well, in a way that they don't feel offended or you don't feel that you're overstepping. So it's a very, very thin balance over there. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, makes sense.
Anyone else? If not, Daniela, maybe other people will come up with questions later on, but you said you have a second question.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yes, I'm also curious, again, I think it goes aligned with the more leadership or more senior positions. I've always been curious to try out new things and create my own things, but what if you find yourself with a certain audience that is very traditional and really doesn't give you much space for that sort of exploration, and you have to stick up to a certain template presentation or to a certain time? I know the time you well, there was ways to work around it, but I find that it's a bit hard to convince them, especially if it's the first time. Maybe you have to start with a more traditional way and then just build yourself through it. But how do you really manage that balance where you really want to explore and make it more engaging, but then the traditional way is to be boring?
That's a good one as well, and I love your enthusiasm. So I would say start small and start making them more and more curious of what else you could do with them, because usually people feel that this is how we do things here, and then they get completely bored. And what's really fun is that I think you are an internal facilitator, right? You work internally, Daniela, right?
Correct.
Yes, you would be very, very surprised if you see an external person coming in and all these people going up and dancing with something that they do with me, for example. So it's a moment of daring. And of course, I'm aware that you have to use specific templates and with specific companies, but that's okay. That's about the slide deck. But the slide deck shouldn't be so much, right? It's just a small part of the presentation. And then the rest is all about the experience. And many times we are afraid that these people are not creative enough, they're not gonna go with the flow and everything. So it takes a moment of daring to put out their things and start teasing them and start asking them to do things that will, oh, maybe, and slowly build up to more experiential activities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is an ongoing practice and creating that trust. Yes,
It is.
thank you.
Thank you, Daniela. We have a question from, I hope I'm not mispronouncing your names, Svetlana. She says that she's always anxious about how to start her presentation in an engaging way and make people interested to pay attention and not to distract on other things. Could you give a short example of a successful start, please? Thank you. And thank you for the question.
Yes, thank you so much, Svetlana. So let me give two examples. One example, very quickly. One example is that when people enter, you ask them to put their favorite dance song in the chat. That's quite weird. People are like, why is she asking that? But then you can have dance breaks in between, or I use it a lot when I teach coaching, because you have to shake off the role, like the role of the leader versus the role of the coach. So when they practice later on, I use their own music in order to move. And this is their music, it's not my music. So it makes people easier to stand up and dance, and they have a laugh, and they have a competition at the end, and whose dance was more attractive and engaging. So that's a way to capture their attention, because they don't expect it. Nobody's asking them what's your favorite song. Another way to start in an engaging way is to start directly with an activity. So think again of the psychological order. Think of the pain that they have, and start with an activity, kick off an activity which is interactive. For example, when I teach accountability in coaching, so that's not the first workshop on coaching, but a bit later on, I have people going immediately into groups. They take balls and they throw balls towards a tree in order to learn how to coach people towards a goal. And if they are online, then we do it with sticky notes on the wall, and you throw the balls towards the sticky notes. So immediately they understand that, oh, there's something for me here to learn. There's something new, and there's something completely engaging. You cannot be disengaged when you have to throw a ball. And so again, a bit of element of competition, especially if you do leadership programs. Leaders like these kinds of things. So think about the audience, think about the challenge that they have, and start with this challenge. As I said before, it's not easy. It's something that takes most of my time in the designing part, but it's totally worthy, because people are either in or out from the beginning. So it's important to lure them in, to seduce them from the beginning.
Thank you, Lena. Any other questions? Either in writing, as you saw, is completely fine, or you can go off mute as well. Okay, great. Then, thank you so much for joining. You will find all the information you need in the link. Oh, no, we do have another question. How long it takes for you, Lena, to design a training?
Depends how much time I have. I can really don't stop thinking about it. But usually I have approximately 2 weeks, not full time to design, but in 2 weeks that things are boiling in my head, in my body, when I walk, when I go to the gym, when I dance, when I work. And then I put things down, and I always like creating a bit of a structure, then sleep over it, then work a little bit more, so improve it over time.
Perfect. And thank you for the question. So you have all the information that you need about the program in the link that I just shared with you. And then, Laura, that's an interesting question. And Lena, if you're okay to stay like 2 other minutes to answer that one, just to finish my idea, you will receive the recording of the session as a follow-up together with the presentation and the link of the program. So feel free to explore it, and maybe we will see each other again in the program. And now, Laura has one final question. What do you mean by psychological order versus logical order? Can you please give me an example? And thank you for the question.
Yes, so Laura, very quickly, when we have a concept that we want to present, or we want to help people to learn, what we usually do is that we go and Google everything, and we learn everything, we read everything about it, and then we put it in a logical order, as in, I want to teach people how to cook spaghetti. Then we start, okay, what are the different parts, different sections of spaghetti, and you go into how you buy them from the supermarket, how you boil them, and how you serve them, right? So you go through the whole logical order from A to Z. It's very logical. In our brains, this is what we think. In reality, this is not how it works if you want to have an engaging session, because you need to start in a psychological way. Psychologically is to start in a moment where people feel challenged, and they see that their challenge is going to be addressed in this course that they are being with you. to use the example that I gave before to Svetlana with the hit the tree activity. So instead of, if you have a course about coaching and accountability in coaching, you don't start the session with, what is accountability? No. And the whole, that's logical. I'm bored already. People have gone through thousands of these courses. But you start with a way that people are like, aha, it's how this thing works. And they see the challenge and they experience it ideally in their body, because we are, a neurobiology says that we learn everything through our bodies. Our body is not a brain taxi. So you get them in groups and they do the tree activity, for example. So it's a challenge. And in this challenge that they go through this activity, they understand, hey, there is something for me here to learn. And it really addresses the challenges that I have in my work right now and the impact that I want to create. So this is the psychological order, not logically from A to Z, but starting from the pain points.
Thank you so much, Lena, and thank you everyone for joining us and for asking so many questions. Just thank you, and for staying over time as well. I know how important time is, so thank you for staying here.